In this session, I'm going to walk through the creation of the exponential growth structure. So the first thing that I want to do is to go ahead and save this, call it exponential growth. Like I said, it's always better when you can spell. I'm not sure I can type. Um, I'll just call it essence. And above the growth, ESSE, essential growth structure. And then I'll save it. Now, as I said before, notice that it now dims because it is saved. But again, we don't know what the what the full URL is, though. If I go here and look, it's the latest thing that I created, so it's right there. And I can then go ahead and open this, so I know that the one I just created is 21,222. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a stock, and I'm just going to call this. I'm just going to leave it as stock. And then I'm going to go ahead and add to that a flow, and I want the flow to be into the stock. The initial value of the stock I will set at 1, and the initial value of the flow I will also set at 1, and then I will go ahead and do some initial settings because I want this to run for a period of 10 years with a time step of 1. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate it. Now, this is essentially just the independent growth structure that was created in the previous session, though what I want to impress upon you is that you never want to be more than a click or two away from a completely running model. If you add a half a dozen pieces, elements to the model, and put formulas in the connections, and find out that it doesn't work, you will spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out how it is that you broke it. Because it's so easy to run a simulation in Insight Maker, my recommendation is every time you add something, test it and make sure it does what you expect it to do at that point. And then when it doesn't work, it's most likely the last thing that you added that there's a problem with. So for each new piece, set it up so it's actually a working model. Don't build a model with a dozen pieces in it and put all the formulas in it, because you're going to spend hours trying to figure out why it is that it doesn't work. And you're just wasting your time. Do yourself a favor and set them as you build the model, test it step by step by step. So this is, I know that I'm creating the reinforcing structure, and I now have two pieces, and they do what I expect them to do at that point. The thing that I now need to do is to go ahead and add a link from from the stock back to the flow. The problem is that it's sitting right on top of it, so I'll hold down the shift key and select it so that I can now go ahead and oh, so I can select it. Oh, sometimes it's a little difficult. There is a link here, I'm pretty sure. From here to here. Okay. So now I can hold down the shift key and select this and let me get rid of one of these flows because I only need one of them. Delete this. So now I have a connection from the stock back to the flow. And now that I have that, I have to change the equation so that rather than 0, it's actually the value of the stock. So now the stock is 1. The value of the flow, let me put this back down here, is equal to the value of new stock. So if I now run it for the same time period, I should get an exponential growth, but I don't. Why is that? Oh, because I have the flow going out of the stock as opposed to into the stock. So let me go ahead and reverse this, which I should have done to begin with. And now if I run it, I get exponential growth. So notice, I mean, what's important, I think, for you to see here is that you don't always get it right initially the first time. Sometimes you have to, you do things that you don't expect to do, and you have to work with it. When you create a link, it's a straight line, but you can hold down the shift key and add waypoints on it, and you can reshape it as you want to or need to. And if you take it off and drop it back on, it turns it back into a straight line. So you need to put waypoints on it again if you want to curve it. Okay? So this is now essentially just the stock, the flow, and the link, which communicates the value of the stock back to the flow. The link doesn't change the value of the stock. It's simply communicating a value from one point to another. When you run the simulation, it gives you the characteristic exponential growth curve, and the ending value is 1024, which is 2 to the 10th power, which is just, you start with 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and at the end of 10 cycles, you have the 2 to the 10th power. Now, what we're going to now add to this is a variable, which we will go ahead and connect to the flow, and we will set the variable initially to a value of 1. And this is meant to be the growth fraction. Let me go ahead and call it that. I'll just call this growth fraction. And now we have to change the formula so that it's new stock times the growth fraction. And we apply that. And now if we simulate it, we get the same value that we had before, 1024, because the growth fraction is 1. But what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the configuration panel, and we're going to tell it that we want a slider, and the maximum value is 1, the minimum value is 0, and it can change by steps of 0.1. So if I now click in the canvas, I now have this slider over here, which allows me to change the value of the growth fraction. So if I set it at 1, I get the 1024 answer. I can now go ahead and set it to 0.5 and compare it. Notice that this value is only ends up being about almost 58, which is substantially smaller than 1024. This gives you a way to quickly reset the values of the parameters in your model to get a sense of the influence that they have on the result when you run the simulation. So you can set sliders for stocks and variables, and you can set them for flows as long as you don't need to assign a formula for the flow. Because this particular flow is the result of the calculation of the stock and a variable, setting a slider doesn't make any sense. If you set a slider for a stock, what that slider represents is the initial value you want assigned to the stock at the time that the simulation begins. It has no impact throughout the simulation, just at the time that it starts. So there's creating the reinforcing structure. I would encourage you to now go create one of your own. Think about creating a savings account with an interest rate and see if you can go ahead and duplicate the structure and create a meaningful model. And when you do, submit the URL to the discussion for the course, and I'll take a look at it and offer you some comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.